Hello and welcome to the Sports Box. And we're going to do another video on football today. Obviously, most of you who would have caught up with the score last night. Some of you would have seen the game. I personally was watching the game from the first minute to the last. Obviously, people talk about the top four, the Europa League places, the team which is going to win the championship. But there is a lot of lot banking on these teams who are fighting for relegation because we don't really understand the financial implications that relegation has, because the revenue goes down by 100 million, and 100 million is a lot of money for any club, especially if it's a small club and doesn't have a history. So say like a Norwich which goes down will have to struggle financially again, and the Leeds which has come up, who've done really well under Bielsa, they are going to gain a lot out of it. And Aston Villa, having spent almost 100 million in the transfer window, a lot is banking on them as well. Although they have like a solid structure in place, they're not like the other relegated club. They are a European champ. They've been European champions in the past, but again, we don't really give enough importance. So today we're going to discuss three things. We're going to start with the relegation battle, then we're going to go on to the Europa League spots, and then finally we're going to discuss the much talked about top four situation, which is going to go down to the wire this time. It's going to be a tough call between the likes of Chelsea, Manchester United, and Leicester. So let's start with the relegation candidates. I think it's fair to say that although mathematically not, but Norwich is definitely done for the season. I think there's no hope there. That is not mathematically possible. But if I take a look at the relegation table right now, Bournemouth, Villa, and Bournemouth and Villa are on 31 points, and Watford is on 34 points. So Bournemouth is going to face Arsenal, who lost to Villa yesterday. Villa are going to face West Ham, and I think Watford have a game. Watford are going to face
against Arsenal. Watford are playing Arsenal.
Sorry, I got it wrong. Watford are playing Arsenal,
and
Bournemouth are playing. I think I got that wrong. I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, so Bournemouth are playing
Everton away. Bournemouth are playing
Everton away, which is again, Everton are not in the best of form. So I won't, go against Bournemouth getting a victory. So Bournemouth and Villa are on the same points. Villa have a slightly better goal difference with 26. And minus 26, that is. And Watford are on 34 points again. Watford and Villa are on 34 points. Bournemouth is on 31 points. So if at all Aston Villa and Watford fail to win their final game, and Bournemouth somehow, happen to win it, then Bournemouth are through. Because obviously, if because they're at minus 27 and Villa is at minus 26, if Villa lose 1-0 and Bournemouth win 1-0, then it's going to be a head-to-head thing, which is going to be really close, I think. I don't remember the last time something like this happened, but it's almost certain if Bournemouth win and Watford and Villa lose, then obviously Bournemouth are going through. And if Aston Villa wins and Watford wins, and Aston Villa wins by a bigger margin, then again, Aston Villa is going through. But again, Watford have to win by a bigger margin against Aston Villa because they are one behind on goal difference. So it's going to be a very tricky, end to the season, because Watford are going up against Arsenal, who just lost to Villa. Aston Villa again are facing West Ham, who will have nothing to play for, and Bournemouth are going up against Everton, who are in poor form. So Puneet, who do you think is the team which will, the two teams which you think are going down and the one which is going to survive?
I think it's yesterday was a massive call for Watford, isn't it? Like they're losing 4-0, and especially what's gone on for them in the last week or so with the sacking of Nigel in terms of when to do and what to do. Like I think they've sacked 3 managers this season, including Nigel Pearson, and that is just too terrible in terms of and he has done so well. Like if I'm not wrong, you were the one who was telling. Like, I think in Christmas they were in the relegation zone, or they were 19th or where, but he
No,
managed to
20th
pull
for
them
that
out.
matter at one point of time when
They
he
were
took over.
20th, and he managed to pull them out of it, and especially results against Liverpool. I think they got a result against City, Arsenal, and United, and I mean, if that is not something which you back, I think it's very difficult for a manager to. I'll be amazed if what happens to the next manager, because even if whether they stay, they don't stay, the next manager would be extremely skeptical of joining a management which backs literally zilch to the manager.
No, it's
So
very
my prediction would
interesting
be
you
Aston
mentioned
Villa
Nigel
going in
Pearson.
because
One thing which comes to my mind when you mention Nigel Pearson is the season before Leicester won the Premier League. I remember that Nigel Pearson was the manager of Leicester, and they were almost sure to go down. And they were facing like a lot of big
yeah,
teams in the last few games, and they happened to secure secure
yeah,
survival, because of which there was that unimaginable season where Leicester finished first in
correct.
the
Yeah.
league. So I think Nigel Pearson sacking is stupid. Yeah, please go on. Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt.
it is. No, no, it is. I mean, it is. Stupid is actually the word. I mean, it just seems to be, or else they're actually they have done some voodoo, and they know that whenever you sack Nigel Pearson and you get in a new manager, the season that you win, that is in case they actually end up staying in the league. Because now I think their game is much difficult. Arsenal, uh, I know they don't have much to play. I think they're what 10th in the league, and even if they win their game, they would be on 56, which would mean they still can't reach Tottenham or Wolves. So, although they don't have anything to play, but he would know Arteta. They would want a performance, and it would be much difficult than for West Ham, because West Ham have put everything in it, and now they are playing the next 2 matches mathematically safe. Nothing can touch them. So, for me, I think Villa will have it easier than what it would be for Watford. I still think both will win and Villa will go through. Bournemouth will also might perhaps sneak in a win, but it will not be enough for them. I think all 3 teams will win on the final day because of the fact that Everton, Arsenal, and West Ham have very little to play. They might just sneak in 2-1, 1-0, something like scores like these. But Villa will go through because, or Villa will find themselves safe. And on your point of the financial uh, implications that it has, like 90 million in one is what a Premier League side gets for just staying in, and the difference between the 17th and the 18th side is more than 50 million, which is massive, especially the pandemic effects and the financial implications that the club is going to have. So my current bets are entirely on Aston Villa, and it's a good, like you said, it's a good club. It's pretty well managed. Dean Smith has done a decent job, although they've spent a lot, and he would definitely want them to improve upon this and not be in a similar situation next year. But I think it's Villa's place to lose now.
Yeah, I do understand. And there are a lot of things, involved, because Villa quite couldn't get the targets that they wanted to in the summer. They wanted Calvin Phillips from Leeds, which didn't really work out, because I think that he's one of the best players in the championship, and
I,
we will definitely get to see a lot more of him. And he's amazing. He reminded me of those old school midfielders who can, ping in those long balls like a Pirlo or a Scholes, or the likes of the midfielders playing in the previous generation. So I think they didn't get the players they wanted. I don't think they strengthened enough in the center forward position, because I think that is where they lack, because they're a good defensive unit. If you actually look at it, they secured a 1-1 draw at Everton, where they had kept a clean sheet almost till the end of the game. And against Liverpool, I remember till the water break in the second half, they were 0-0. So,
oh yeah,
there's a lot of games where they've been playing very well and not really getting the results. I remember they started really well against United, and then that penalty which was given, which was pretty, controversial, sort of got led to a dip in morale, because of which they didn't look the same after that. So I think they've done the most without getting the desired results. I think I've
They're
been
a bit
following
unlucky. Yeah.
Villa quite closely because they've been playing most of the big teams, and they haven't been blessed with the fixture schedule because they've played a lot of the big teams in the restart since the restart. So I don't think that it's been easy sailing for them. On the contrary, I think that Watford is one team I don't want. I would be happy if a Bournemouth or a Villa stay up. Even Bournemouth can, because there is a good
Yeah.
possibility that West Ham and Watford both might lose their games, and Bournemouth, who are a team which has the potential of beating teams 3-0, 4-0 on their day. If they're having a good day, they are one, like they beat Leicester 4-1, which is not a joke. I know there was a sending off, but Bournemouth is a team where they're going good. I think they can do really well. One thing that I like about, I mean, all said and done, that you look at the other clubs and you look at Watford, they're a complete contrast to each other. Because look at Norwich, they didn't sack the manager even though they are like
Yeah.
on a very bad tally, and there's no chance they
Relegated,
could.
yeah.
Probably it's been 3 weeks since they've been relegated. Then again, if you look at the 19th position, there's Bournemouth, who stuck with Eddie Howe, who I think is a fantastic manager. I don't know what has gone wrong with Bournemouth, because I don't think they're a team that should be going down, and he's done a tremendous job in the past few seasons, and I'm sure he's the guy who's going to get them back up in the league in one season.
Yeah.
That is my prediction. And then again, the third team is again Aston Villa. I think there was a point of time in the season when we were hearing a lot of strong rumors that Dean Smith is going to be sacked and John Terry will be taking up, which I think would have been a little premature of putting in John Terry in the deep end in his first job as a manager, because you would want an entire preseason, if you're managing for the first time, to get a hang of how things are. So I think they've done a good job, and I think it finally paid off against Arsenal. There were a lot of good performances, and finally, there came a time where the performance and the result matched. So I think my shout again is Villa, but I wouldn't be upset if Bournemouth go through. But I would not want a Watford to go through because of the attitude of the players. The players, I remember watching them against Chelsea, and they were just strolling down the park. They weren't concerned. I understand that they were facing Norwich next, so they wanted to conserve their energy, but they could have made a few changes to the team and given it a fight. The point is, I look at Bournemouth, they're trying to do stuff. They played well against Spurs.
Yeah.
They beat Leicester 4-1. I look at a Villa, they played well against almost all the teams. There have been phases in the game where they have dominated to some extent. They were very good against Chelsea as well. But I don't see Watford putting in that effort against a team they know they can't beat. So if they're up against a team like a Man City, they played well for 20 odd minutes and then again, one goal and they let it go. So I think the only team which is
Yeah.
put up the best fight, according to me, is Villa, and I think that needs to be rewarded in terms of survival. So next,
A very
again,
good point.
your as inconsequential as it may be in the larger scheme of things, I think that you either in the Champions League, then comes a relegation battle, and then there is this battle for the Europa League, which is something, no big club wants to be in the Europa League. But again, if you're there, you look at it as a positive, because if you actually end up winning the tournament, you can make your way to the Champions League directly. So what do you think? I mean, currently, if you look at it, Wolves and Spurs are favorites. They are 1 point adrift of each other. Wolves are on 59, Spurs on 58. Wolves will be facing Chelsea, and Tottenham have Palace. So the fixture favors Tottenham, because Palace don't have really anything to play for, and they've been pretty unlucky with results. I don't think they've been very poor, because they've had good games against Chelsea. I think they were pretty impressive against United as well. They didn't really get the result, and that goal which was called offside was very, very close, millimeters. So I don't think Palace have been that bad, but the results haven't really worked for them. So again, it's going to be a very interesting final day, because the team which is eighth, the team which is seventh, right? Because one of Leicester, Chelsea, and Man United is obviously going to get the direct spot now that City has, somehow gotten the verdict from the CAs that they won't be exempt from the Champions League next season. So what are your thoughts there? Who do you think will finally end up there?
I think I think Bulls and Tottenham are going to stay. I doubt Sheffield. Sheffield can't reach them at all. So uh, Bulls and Tottenham are going to be 6 or 7. It's an impressive comeback from Tottenham. I think from the time when Jose Mourinho has joined, I think he's got a lot of flag, and I just find it amusing when people say the way he plays or whatever he does. He's gotten results day in day out. I think barring a couple of results which haven't gone his way, his team is now even before a match to go. I think there is no chance that they don't come into Europe again. At a point where they were, I think, 14th or 15th when Poch had left, and everyone, including Arsenal and Burnley and even Newcastle for that matter, was way ahead of them. So that's a terrific job that Tottenham, like Jose had done, and I think if he gets uh, the adequate backing again from Daniel Levy, I think it's going to be a big top four next season again, because he would be in a position. He's someone who's been there, done that. He very rarely doesn't come in the top four. Either his team is sliding that badly that he's not in the top four, but I think he would now that he's come up with some serious opposition. He would really want Spurs to be there in and amongst the top four. Bulls, 100%, man. Bulls are just a dream the way they are playing right now. The quality of the squad is nowhere close to what they should be in terms of the position. They always end up, hitting higher standards than what their quality suggests. They are ahead of Arsenal. They are ahead of Tottenham again. Uh, Very likely that if Leicester don't win the next two games, or so the next game against United, Leicester and Wolves will finish on the same point. And you look at the difference between the squads again, and where Leicester were after the lockdown. So it's genuinely quite a dramatically magnificent performance by Wolves, which they give in year in year out now, right? They were seventh last year. They're actually going in position to make it even better, and I don't think so. They've added more or much more quality than what it was in the last year. So it's all due credit to Nuno Espirito Santos. So this state is simple. I think Wolves sixth and Tottenham seventh. Arsenal have an FA Cup final against Chelsea.
Which
They
would be
might
very
come.
interesting, because one team might miss out, and they would love to knock Tottenham out of it, if that is the case, So if Tottenham is the last fixture and Wolves fail to win against Chelsea, so then that won't be good for Arsenal. But if Tottenham lose or draw and they are behind Wolves, they are on that seventh position, then that will give Arsenal that added motivation to beat Chelsea. But then again, I'm not really sure that how does the motivation work for Arsenal. I don't know what kind of a team they are under Arteta, because we've seen both ups and downs under him. But I remember last
Yeah,
season, Chelsea had already secured top four. They weren't in
yeah.
desperate as Arsenal to sort of get Champions League football. But that final was shocking. Chelsea won 4-1 and Arsenal didn't put up a fight at all. Obviously, that was
Yeah,
different
even
management.
I was expecting Arsenal to put up a lot more fight than what they did actually. I mean, in terms of if your requirement is higher, if you know that's the only way you're going to go through, you might as well put all eggs in that basket. Please
Yeah,
continue.
I don't know what happened. That was like a very flat performance. I mean, you can blame it on the venue, the crowd, and all that. But at the end of the day, Arsenal would have been the ones who would have benefited. It wouldn't have benefited Chelsea as much as it would have, because Chelsea anyways had a transfer ban. So even if they made those
Correct,
extra bucks,
correct.
they would
Yeah,
have been able to spend it in the market. And they'd already secured a Champions League berth. So uh, I don't know what will happen, because I hope Chelsea win, and I think that Chelsea might just get it through, because having Lampard, and I could see that winning mentality in the team which was put up against Manchester United. He didn't want to take it lightly, because that is a tournament he's won a lot of times as a player himself, and I think once you've been if you won so many trophies as a player, I think you do prioritize over trophies as compared to
winning.
someone who hasn't won. I don't know why Ole didn't, because Ole has won a lot in his time, but probably because he's managed a Cardiff before this, so he's been in a lot of different places as a manager as well, and he's much more experienced. So I think it could be a little naive as well, because if you look at a Jurgen Klopp, he doesn't prioritize these trophies at all. So for the past,
Yeah,
he hasn't won. a League Cup or a FA Cup since he's come to England. So he makes sure that he's going to prioritize only on 2 tournaments because he knows that he has a limited squad, and competing in 4 tournaments at this stage with the intensity that the players play at in the current times is a little difficult. But again, City, who have a wider pool of players to choose from, they can sort of do a better job at that, and that's why they've been successful in the other domestic tournaments as well. And they were flat against Arsenal, so I'm not sort of saying that they've been very good today, but this season. But obviously, they did win the League Cup this season, which was like the first trophy that you can win. So yeah, that's it. And again, Arsenal could be the decider in this case, although they're 10th and they're relevant when it comes to the league table. But yeah, that FA Cup final could sort of give them that added impetus to play in Europe, because I don't see Arsenal finishing in the top 4 next season. So a Europa League, I personally think that with the quality of teams that end up in the Europa League, I think there's a better chance of teams winning the Europa League than getting a top 4 berth, because Chelsea, as Chelsea have been in the Europa League twice in the recent past, and they won it twice. So I don't know about other clubs, but Chelsea have been either fortunate or been really good at it.
That's a good way, I think. I think generally that's a good way to qualify when you know that top 4 is only going to become tougher next year onwards.
Yeah, if you have a team which is surely going to finish in the top 4, then you won't really worry about it. But I think like United next season would be a good contender for top 4 if they spend well. This season again, it's we've got to talk about that, because that is one of the most tricky things that could happen. The number of the permutation combinations in that aspect is crazy. So let us go one by one. Let us see what will Leicester have to do to qualify in the top 4. So currently, if you look at it, they'll have to hope that United drop points today. The easiest way for them is they have to hope that United drop points today and they beat them on the final day of the season. Which again, I'm not very sure that Leicester can beat United considering the form and the injury. Actually, we've been talking about Leicester's poor form and all of that, but we don't give enough credit to the fact that Brendan Rodgers has been playing with a lot of injuries. If you see, both their fullbacks are injured. They don't have. Pereira was injured for a huge portion of the season, and Chilwell is now injured, who was, doing pretty well, because I saw him attacking quite a lot down the left-hand side. And a lot of big clubs are interested in Man City, Man United. Chelsea were, but I don't think they are right now. So they've lost Chilwell and they lost Soyuncu, who's their best defender, in my opinion, with that suspension. And on top of that, they don't have Maddison, who's been the most creative player they've had in the team. So I think because of the number of injuries that Leicester have had, their dip in form also has to do with it, because Maddison has been a big player for them. If you look at the time they were doing well, I remember Maddison, Vardy were linking up really well. And the likes of Harvey Barnes and Jose Perez were playing more of a supporting role, but it was more about the likes of Maddison and Vardy, who were the consistent contributors for Leicester. So I think that has been something which has led to their downfall. What do you think? I mean, where do you stand in this?
Yeah, so even I agree. I think the biggest challenge for them is going to be not in their hands, which is how Chelsea and United perform. And I do think I have a very streaky feeling that Chelsea might eke out a draw tomorrow, tonight against Liverpool, and United might, win. So if that is the case, it seems very difficult for them to make a case. Difficult for us to make a case for them to come in the top 4. And you're right. The number of injuries that they have had, right from Pereira to Chilwell to Soyuncu being red carded to Maddison, it's just, and it's the core. Soyuncu is very rightly their best defender, the best centre back that they have, and it's unfortunately coincided with their with the spiral down in the form as well. So it seems a little difficult that they might not. They will achieve the top 4 spot, but a good part could for them be if United or Chelsea sort of don't get the maximum points in this match. Both of them have a tougher fixture, right? They have a tough fixture. Like Leicester do if United eke out a draw and lose, still Leicester win. Leicester go through.
Yeah.
Uh, Same with Chelsea. Chelsea, if they draw and tonight and they lose against Wolves, it's still Leicester who gets a chance to go above Chelsea. So this is the best case scenario, but I still don't see them, with the current squad at least and with the kind of form that they have. But pressure does a lot of things. You don't know
Mm.
how people respond. You don't know how what kind of form or a mentality. You have to give credit and the fact to that players, especially in Leicester, like the likes of Vardy, the likes of West Morgan, Schmeichel, uh, and who else? And Jose Perez, and these guys have actually been there, done that. Not Perez, but the like Schmeichel, Morgan, and Vardy have actually won a title, and they would
Johnny
know
Evans.
how to. Johnny Evans, yeah, and Albrighton, and these guys have actually won a title, so they know how to perform under pressure, and they know when things aren't going your way, how just get there. And I actually had a feeling that when they won the game 2-0, I think before Spurs, I think they would have sort of upturned their form again, and that was a little uh, chance where they had a foot in the door again. But the performance against Spurs was abject, and now it seems to me that there is very little hope for them to uh, come on top from here. So this is my prediction. This is, I think, very strong
So,
believer
what do
that
you think? Just one final prediction. What do you think? Uh, I mean, forget the draw, the match against West Ham, because that again, funnier things have happened in the Premier League. On paper, you only expect one team to go through, but West Ham have been resurgent in the previous few games. They played really well against Norwich, and they were very good against. I think who did they beat last week? I forgot the name of the team, but it was obviously not the best of teams. But
Watford. They beat
Watford,
Watford.
yeah, they beat Watford 3-1. They were 3-0 up at halftime, so that game was
Yeah,
taken care of in the first half itself. So I think that West Ham are on a good run of form, and irrespective of the fact that they don't have anything to play, but when you win two games back to back, there is a certain amount of momentum that you gather. And again, United are on the cusp where they've been unbeaten for 19 games, and they finally lost a game. Obviously, it wasn't in the
yeah,
Premier League, and there were certain situations which are not uh, you know ideal. But yes, I think that momentum is one of the most important things in football, because if you look at the teams which have won the titles in the past few seasons, you look at Antonio Conte when he won the title. Chelsea won 13 games in a row. Then City came in the next season, they won some 17 sort of games in a row, and then Liverpool again this season won a set of so many games in a row. So
yeah.
I think that momentum is something which is very important. And if you would have sort of looked at the table probably before the restart, and you would look at United and say, would they finish in the top four? It would have been a 50-50. I wouldn't say it would have been a sure shot no, because
Right.
obviously Leicester were the team which people thought would drop, because they'd already seen a drop in form towards the end of the pre-pandemic period. But yeah, it was very interesting. So my question is that what do you think is going to be the score in the final day of the season between Leicester and Man United? Because that
Uh,
is what will decide sort of. That'll. I think if United win that game and Leicester lose, Chelsea don't need another point, and United
Correct.
are
Yeah.
going through anyways. And
Right.
if Leicester win that game, and then Leicester win that game, United win today, then it comes to goal difference, which is again going to be like very.
I,
So I think
correct.
that is the
I
most
think.
crucial match when it comes to the
Yeah,
top.
yeah, yeah.
So what
I
do you
have a strange feeling Leicester might actually sneak it. My heart says 60% draw, 40% there is a chance that Leicester might actually sneak a win, because they know. But the thing is, in that case, I still think that won't be enough for them. This is my personal opinion, because I think United will win today. The game is going to because there will be a reaction, and they would somehow eke out a win. That would take them to, I think, 65, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so that'll take them to 65. Leicester would be on 62, and Chelsea would be on 63, depending on the result tonight against Liverpool. So 60, either could be 64 or could be 67. And Chelsea would beat Wolves, and United might lose, and they would come on 65 again. But United's goal difference because of the West Ham game would be much better than Leicester, because I don't see Leicester putting 2-3 past United. So and United not scoring, so the goal difference could be only one. And this is my prediction: like Leicester might win 1-0 or 2-1 against United, and United might win through 2-0 or 3-0 against West Ham today, or 2-0, 3-1 or something like that. And the goal difference might eke in through, and Chelsea and United would go through on that
So
regard. So generally think Chelsea will beat Wolves.
I have a very different opinion. I am more confident of United beating Leicester than beating West Ham. I don't know. West Ham seems like a bogey team to me because they somehow, they could have the worst season and then just put up a
Yeah.
performance where they're doing very well. And they've got a lot of
And remember,
physicality.
David Moyes is coming to United,
Huh?
after the comment that he's made. So Moyes is coming to Old Trafford right again. So after the
Yeah,
comment
I
he's
mean
made,
that would be an added motivation, and on top of that,
motivation.
you have the likes of Susek who's been scoring from midfield. You have Antonio who's been doing very well. Declan Rice has been top notch. So I think, I mean, I am a firm believer of momentum in the game because I think momentum is what makes or breaks your season. So like Tottenham in the last three games, they built up a certain momentum which has sort of escalated them to the Europa League spots where a lot of
Right.
Jose was getting a lot of flack by a lot of people around, and especially after that game against Bournemouth where they lacked any kind of creativity. But I think they've turned up for the past three games and they've done really well. And I don't know. I've got a strange feeling which I had when Chelsea were facing West Ham. I thought that West Ham will win it somehow. I don't know why, but I had this funny feeling inside of me. And then against Southampton, I thought that United might drop points. I had a feeling against Villa as well, but again, Villa, they started really well, and there was certain things which didn't really go for them. And I had a good. I was pretty nervous about Sheffield as well, and that also didn't really go well with Chelsea. And so one thing I didn't imagine happening was Leicester losing 4-1 to Bournemouth, because
Yeah, Bournemouth.
that was way. I think that if Leicester don't make top four, I think that will be that game where they think
Correct.
could have sort of cemented our place, because they made
Yeah,
so many chances, and Brendan Rodgers has a habit of bottling in from very good situations,
yeah,
positions in the Premier League. He's done that with Liverpool against Chelsea, I remember, and he was in pole position. I didn't even think that United had a chance when the season started. Obviously, those extra injuries and suspension did add to it. And I thought Maddison would be fit, but Maddison sort of couldn't take part in most of the restart. So again, this is a very tricky situation for Leicester, and my heart goes out to them because I think they've if I look at it,
they've
they've been better
outperformed. Yeah,
than United and Chelsea during the entire course of the season, to an extent where they were being touted as the number two team, behind Liverpool
yeah,
at one point of time.
yeah,
But this is what momentum does to you. When you start losing games, you just lose a plot. Like what the way momentum worked for United, it sort of totally worked against
yeah. It
Leicester, and
was.
it has
Yeah.
led to this situation. So I personally
So,
don't
but
see.
that's the thing, right? That's how teams actually are to be measured. Like I know they were very good and they were the second best team at a point in time, but that's how, if you are not able to stop that, and if like even we were discussing the Ole effect, right? Ole actually has a good form, and then when you go down, United just keep spiraling down too. That is where a manager plays or gets his money, because that is when you decide that you need to just stop the buck here, even if it means the dirtiest 1-0 win or the luckiest 1-0 win, or you just go for a draw, or you play the most negative football, but you just get it out of your system that the momentum has stopped. And that is a brilliant point that you're making, not only in series of wins, but even when it's series of losses. So I think that is where Rogers has not been able to, keep buck his team up. Especially the Bournemouth game they had to win that game, man. I mean, the first half they should have scored at least five. That's how many chances they had.
And if you look at it now, if they would have won the Bournemouth game, they would have been in
Yeah,
pole position for qualifying, even after
exactly.
losing
Yeah,
to Tottenham. So they would have been on 65 today. And
correct.
even if United would have won today, they would have
Beat
sort of
them.
leveled them
Yeah.
on points, and Chelsea would have been struggling. So that is what
Uh,
that is again a game of small margins, and that is why it's so exciting. I don't remember for the last so many years that there's been such a close competition for top four and the relegation battle as well. So, where both of these things have gone to the last game, it always seems like it's going to be, we always say, this time the relegation battle is going to be really tough and all that. But 3 weeks or 2 weeks from uh, the 3 weeks from the end of the season, it sort of just find the table just adjusts itself, and who's going down and
yeah,
who's staying up. So I don't know where this is going, and I'm no one to predict, and especially because I'm a Chelsea fan, I don't want to predict, because I would obviously want Chelsea to win today and just end all out, because Chelsea need one win to
correct.
win. Chelsea have it the easiest, because Chelsea just need to win one of the two games and they're through. There's no power on earth which could
I
sort
think
of.
I genuinely think Chelsea will beat Wolves. Personally, I think Chelsea will beat
He
Wolves.
did,
Wolves aren't
he did play really well against them in the other leg, but
Mourinho yet.
at that point, Wolves weren't going through a very good run of form. But I think that Lampard will have the team. And when you're talking about momentum, I think Chelsea is one team which is sort of not had, apart from the 6 games that we won in a run where we had like the lesser team back to back. I think Chelsea have not had the momentum of either winning too much or losing too much. We haven't lost too many games in a row. We haven't won too many games in a row, which has made it more of a balanced season. Whereas United had a very bad start to the season. There was a point where they couldn't get a win, and then there was a point where they couldn't lose. So that's what
Yeah.
is a little concerning. If I would be a United fan, I would be concerned after a loss, because it's been a long time since United have lost. And the last time I saw
Lost, yeah.
United losing, then they just go on a run where you know
Well,
they go on the best
I
run
agree.
and the worst losing streak. That is
Yeah,
what United
actually,
had, and that never
no, I
happened.
completely disagree. I don't think there's no fear in a United fan today, but there is a sense of positivity, and
Yeah,
I like to say the positivity comes from the fact that United's attack, especially the likes of Martial, Rashford, Bruno, are generally, and even Greenwood for that matter, are generally gelling well, and it seems to me that there is a chance of scoring goals.
yeah,
And the Chelsea match was one, tactically Lampard over like played well against Ole, and two, it seemed that all the players had a bad game. So
yeah.
it's like uh, you know it's like a scenario where you feel that okay, we had a bad game, we literally remove it out of the system and come back and do the thing again, what we are known for or what we are good at. This is what it seems to me, and you just need to have your fingers crossed and hope that they
Yeah,
cross the line
even
today.
I would be optimistic as a United fan, but there is no logic to the fact that there is some kind of fear, but there is some kind of funny
Yeah.
feeling which I'm getting against West Ham, that they won't lose. I doubt they're going to lose to West Ham, but at worst it'll be a nervy victory or it could be a draw. So it could be something of that sort. But if United just start pressing in the first 10-15 minutes, I'm sure they're going to get a goal, because you look at the last few games they've played, they haven't started well. That is why they've been pretty nervy. Even the
Yeah,
Palace
that's a
game,
good
till
point.
they got the second goal towards the end of the game, they were quite on the edge, because
Yeah,
Ayew had that goal
ready to
allowed.
concede. Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been it. I mean, it was a game of fine margin. They didn't start very well against Villa, but they got the penalty, which was fortunate. They didn't start too well against Southampton either. They were the ones who scored first. And so it was only a matter of time, which I personally felt, that they come up against a big team, and where if you don't start well, they are going to punish you, I think, because they were a little nervy starters anyway, and the number of injuries and stoppages in the game didn't really help, because that also
Mhm.
slowed down the momentum even further. And I think that the tactic that Ole employed was very negative. Although Lampard also played three at the back, but he had very attacking fullbacks. The problem
Hmm.
with the United was they played an Aaron Van Bissaka, who's not the most aggressive, or he's
Correct.
not a wing back, he's
Attacking.
a proper right back. And then even Williams was, is not the most attacking. I would suggest that Luke Shaw, although he's a very balanced fullback, he's much more better than Williams going forward, because he's
Going
got the
forward.
pace.
Yeah.
He's good at crossing as well, and he reads the game well. So I know there are a lot of things which are going to happen, and Could happen, will happen, we don't know. But let's just hope that, I mean, I would hope that Chelsea and United go through for the both of us.
Yeah.
But stranger things have happened,
Absolutely.
and I'm not confident about Chelsea beating either of the two teams, because personally, it I mean, when it's so close and so much is at stake, you always feel that
Man.
you might not win
That
a
is the
game. But I would
that
hope
is
they
the
win.
beauty of
But
it.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not confident of them sort of going out and beating both the teams. But yeah, I think that if United win today and if Chelsea win today, then it's over. But
Yeah.
obviously, if Chelsea, even if they get a draw, I think it's going to be much easier for them, because then Leicester only have to win to make sure they go through. And United would not want to take a risk of losing on the last day,
Correct.
because it could come down to goal difference then. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that would also be fair enough. But again, Chelsea are going up against Liverpool, and Liverpool must be really angry after the last game. Although I fancy this is the best time to go up against a Liverpool team, because they have
True.
the trophy
True.
in one corner of their mind, so they're already thinking of lifting the trophy.
Correct. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
buses have arrived to Stamford Bridge, with the
Yeah.
champions and all
Yeah.
that I saw. So obviously that is something which is going to be for later tonight, and we'll try to do a follow up on this once the game week is over, and we'll sort of predict the final game. But I think that I personally think, on the balance of the season, considering what a tremendous end to the season United have had, I think they will go through. And I think Chelsea should go through on the basis of how consistent they've been throughout the season. But yeah, stranger things have happened. And Leicester, I don't think that Leicester will go down without a fight. They're going to come up against United, and they have the last game is at home. So that, obviously, without the crowd or with the crowd, when there are slight changes in dimensions, the grass, the pitch, the outfield, a lot of things that are in your favor, and you play like 19 games at home in a Premier League season. So I think a lot of stuff to look forward to. And let's just do a follow up once this is over, and let's see what happens. The United game is going to start any moment now, and
Yeah. It's
I'm
less than
sure
20
you'd
minutes
want to
approximately.
go and watch it. So thank you
Yeah.
guys so much for watching
Thank
this,
you.
and had a lovely time talking about the different possibilities that could take place on the last day of the season. And if you like
Mm.
this video, please click on the like button, and if you like our channel, please subscribe to it, and we'll be bringing you a lot of more sporting news and controversies in the last week of football. And that's about it from me. Thank you so much, Puneet.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. And keep tuning in, keep listening to our videos, keep subscribing, and keep sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.